Have you ever noticed how some people can walk into a room, say nothing, and still control everything? They don't argue, they don't explain, they don't react, they withdraw, and suddenly everything shifts. People start wondering, they start chasing, they start feeling the absence. Now ask yourself something honestly. What would happen if you stopped reacting? If instead of responding immediately, you paused? If instead of explaining yourself, you stayed silent? If instead of being available, you disappeared? Because right now, you don't realize it, but people are not connecting with you. They are controlling you through your reactions, through your predictability, through your availability. You answer fast, so they expect you. You explain yourself, so they question you. You react emotionally, so they pull your strings. And every time you respond without thinking, you give away power, not a little, all of it. You give away your energy, your attention, your control, and at the end of the day, you feel drained, not because life is hard, but because you are too available, too accessible, too reactive, too easy to reach. And here's the truth no one tell you. Being constantly available is not kindness. It's self-abandonment. You were taught to respond fast, to be there for everyone, to keep the peace, to not upset people. But what that really taught you was how to ignore yourself. You say yes when you want to say no. You respond when you want silence. You engage when you should walk away. And slowly, without noticing, you disappear. Carl Jung called this the mask, the version of you that exists just to be accepted, the version that answers quickly, smiles when exhausted, and explains itself to people who never asked for the truth, only for control. And the more you wear that mask, the more predictable you become. And what is predictable is easy to manipulate. People learn your patterns. They know how to trigger you, how to pull a reaction out of you, how to get your attention on demand. They don't need to control you directly. They just need you to keep reacting. But the moment you stop, everything breaks. The moment you don't answer, don't explain, don't engage, they feel it because your silence removes their control. And now they don't know who you are anymore. And that makes people uncomfortable because most people don't want you. They want access to you, your energy, your attention, your emotional availability. And when you take that away, they call you different, cold, distant. But you didn't change. You just stopped being easy. Carl Jung said something powerful. Everything that irritates us about others reveals something about ourselves. So watch carefully. When you stop reacting, who gets irritated? Who tries to provoke you? Who pushes harder just to get a response? That's not about you. That's exposure. You're seeing who depended on your reactions to feel in control. And here's where it gets deeper. Every time you react impulsively, you are spending something valuable. Psychic energy. Your attention is not free. Your emotions are not free. Your focus is not unlimited. And every unnecessary reaction is a leak. You argue, you lose energy, you explain, you lose energy, you defend yourself, you lose energy. And for what? To prove a point to someone who doesn't care. That is not strength, that is misdirected energy. And people who are drained like this become vulnerable, easy to influence, easy to provoke, easy to control, because when you're exhausted, you don't choose, you react. But when you conserve your energy, everything changes. You become harder to read, harder to trigger, harder to manipulate. You walk into a room and you don't need to say anything. People feel it because silence is not emptiness. It's control. It's awareness. It's restraint. And most people don't have it. Have you ever noticed how people panic when you stop responding? When you don't reply right away? When you don't explain yourself? When you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you. It's because they lost access. And access was the only power they had over you. So they push, they question, they provoke, trying to pull you back into the same pattern. But if you stay silent, the game ends, because silence forces people to face themselves. And most people are not ready for that. That's why silence is powerful, not because it defeats others, but because it protects you. It keeps your energy intact. It keeps your focus clean. It keeps your identity yours. But don't confuse this with running away. This is not avoidance. This is selection. Choosing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Choosing when to speak and when to remain still. Choosing yourself instead of performing for others. And yes, there is a price. You will lose people. People who only valued your availability will disappear. People who depended on your reactions will get uncomfortable. People who benefited from your weakness will call you different. And they're right. You are. Because now you're not reacting. You're deciding. You're not explaining. You're observing. You're not available to everyone. You're available to yourself. And in that space, something powerful happens. The noise fades. The pressure fades. The need to respond disappears. And for the first time, you hear yourself clearly. You think clearly. You move with intention. You stop chasing and start choosing. This is what Jung called individuation, becoming whole. Not who the world wants you to be, but who you are, without interference. And it begins the moment you stop reacting to everything. So let me ask you one question. How long are you going to keep giving your energy away for free? How long are you going to keep responding, explaining, reacting, just to maintain connections that cost you yourself? Or are you ready to become someone people can't control anymore? Because the moment you stop reacting, everything changes. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power.